So this is another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast. I'm Jarad.
I'm Brandon.
Money in the Bank, relocation, MJF, Hell in a Cell, and Double or Nothing. That and so much more we'll talk about this week as another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast begins right now.
Fans celebrate with me from Rome to Rochester.
Bad luck seems to be my middle name. They might as well tag me up with my buddy from Syracuse.
So this is another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast coming to you from Syracuse, New York. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Heel to the Face and follow and subscribe to us on all podcast and video platforms, aka just YouTube, where we upload the video every single week. We're coming off of Double or Nothing in Las Vegas. Post our recording of the show last week, there was the big news about the Money in the Bank relocation. I did a little quick video about that. You can check it out on YouTube. I did it over the weekend, and we'll get to that later on in the show. But we will start this week's edition of the show talking Double or Nothing this past weekend from Las Vegas, where Money in the Bank will take place. And there's a few takeaways. Obviously, there's been a lot of takeaways. A lot of people have been talking Double or Nothing the last couple of days, probably in your ear, whether you have Sirius satellite radio or you just watch all the traditional YouTube channels. So we won't be the first place to talk about it. We'll be giving you our opinions, though, just like the rest of them. And overall, I think a decent pay-per-view. I felt the last pay-per-view from AEW was a little bit better. Revolution.
Yeah, this wasn't their greatest show.
Yeah, no, I don't think this was their best show of the year.
Awful.
And I wasn't a fan of the length of time. And I get it. They don't have as many pay-per-views, but I don't think that's an excuse.
How many matches? 13, 14 matches?
Yeah. From what I heard is the reason they had so many matches and the reason it went so long was they bought more time so that they didn't have to restrict Martha Hart in whatever she wanted to say post the Owen Hart Foundation Tournament Finals. And by giving her more time, they essentially had to buy another hour. And when they bought another hour, he added, Tony Khan that is, more matches to the card last minute.
You got 13 matches. You could split these two, these like 13. You could do six on one show and 7 on another show. No, we're not moving the two nights. No. I'm saying you could have two pay-per-views, not in the same weekend, but if you kept some storylines going a little bit further out, you probably could have made this you could make this into two pay-per-views.
Yeah, we talked about this last week. There was a few matches on this card that didn't need to be on this card.
Yeah, no offense, like
Darby Allin and Kyle O'Reilly for one. That didn't need to be. But again, I think those were added because Tony Khan said, I got another hour.
And that match was okay. I mean, it wasn't anything to write home about. It wasn't like the holy shit moments, it wasn't anything like that. It was a decent match. I mean, those guys are going to give you a solid match. So it was solid, but it wasn't really necessary for this card. I mean, another match that was kind of, I would even say it was blah, is Cargill and Anna Jay. I didn't think. Yeah,
you had the debut of Ember Moon at the end of that match, or formerly known as Ember Moon, in that match. But other than that, yeah, that match could have stayed off pay-per-view.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing is they brought... Now, what is her new name now? I forget. I'm so used to
Athena.
Athena, that's right.
Yes.
So Athena makes her debut. Maybe that's the reason why they had this on the card, because they planned this out obviously already. So I'm guessing maybe they were like, let's give her some spotlight on a pay-per-view.
No, it was very strange if you were watching live on the East Coast, that at 11 o'clock Eastern on a Sunday night, we had yet to have the Anarchy in the Arena match. We had yet to have the tag team match, and we had yet to have... these matches hadn't even started yet. It's 11 o'clock. Typically, you're used to a pay-per-view coming to a close, and we still had, like, a good chunk of matches
left. It's like you had about
an
hour's worth of matches left.
Yeah, it ended up being an hour and a half. The pay-per-view ended around 12:25 Eastern time.
Late night.
And yeah, I don't think... Listen, Tony Khan, you're supposed to be different. AEW is supposed to be different.
This is not different at all.
Yeah, you're supposed to be. And I put this out on Twitter that obviously when WrestleMania did it, all the fans, chaos. They needed WrestleMania to be 2 nights if you're going to do that from here on out. But then AEW does the exact same thing. And yeah, the pay-per-view didn't start until 8, which another thing, I guess it might have felt a little bit better if it started at 7. Now, I understand they're in Las Vegas. Time difference over there is a little bit different.
Okay,
it's a holiday
but big
weekend.
Freaking whoop. Like, it's 7 o'clock Eastern. Like, so that's what, 4 o'clock Vegas time? Am I right?
Yeah. So
4 o'clock
the pay-per-view
Vegas?
started at 5 o'clock Vegas time with the 8 o'clock start.
So here's the think of it on the West Coast perspective, because a lot of companies like NFL, NBA, they think about the West Coast. Here's the thing. It's in freaking Vegas. So let's see. What was the exact length of this show? What was it, 5 hours?
4 hours and 25 minutes.
Okay, so here you go. So you do a 7 o'clock show. You're out by midnight. And guess what? Last time I checked, it's Las Vegas. So midnight's, that's prime time in Vegas.
Well, yeah, you'd be out at 9 o'clock. Yeah. So,
you're right. Yeah, you're right. It'd be.
Yes, no, you're out at 9 o'clock. I mean, so I went to SummerSlam. That was an 8 o'clock start.
That's prime time.
That got over around like 11:45.
I was saying 12 because I was thinking.
Oh, that got over 11:45 Eastern, so it got over just shy of 9 o'clock there.
Yeah, that's
and it was
not
just
bad.
shy of a 4-hour pay-per-view. So I think this pay-per-view could have been under 4 hours if you got rid of a match or two, because like I said, it only went about 25 minutes over midnight.
Did we really need the Anarchy and Arena match? Do we really need that to go 20
I'll be
minutes?
honest with you. I mean, you say what you want, but I think that was the most entertaining match of the night.
No,
I mean, you had the Wild Thing music playing like throughout the whole match, up until Jericho cut the sound system. But you had the music playing like right from the get-go.
Wait a second. So you're telling me that was the most entertaining match when the match that went on after was the 3-way tag that was probably the best match of the night?
The 3-way tag was all right.
I called it correctly too, by the way. No, actually, I didn't call it correctly because I actually picked.
You had Powerhouse Hobbs.
So
we
both were wrong then.
Yeah,
because I'm like, wait a second. I was like, no, I didn't pick Jurassic Express, which I'm actually kind of happy they won because I want them to be champions for a little bit longer. I like hanging out. Those belts a little bit.
As much, and we were talking about this a little off air. I think probably one of the most entertaining matches of the night was probably the Hardys and the Young Bucks.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No,
I mean, we were talking about this off air about how Jeff looked a little off, and you were giving him a little more credit. And a lot of people were noticing he was looking a little off in this match.
I mean, I just thought the timing of the match, not like the time of the match itself, but like the timing, like the sequences, I felt like were a little off. It looked like, and here's the thing, Jeff was obviously, as we know, he's not going to be on Dynamite this week. So obviously he was dealing with some sort of injury is what I would assume. So that's part of the reason why the match went the way it did. I think putting them in a situation where it was almost a 20-minute match, maybe knowing Jeff was injured, I don't know if that was a good call. I get it. It's the Bucks and the Hardys. I know it's a match that people want to see. But if you knew Hardy was laboring out there, maybe you make the last-minute call to cut this match in half a little bit. And maybe save it for another day. Or, here's the thing, can the Hardys do 20-minute matches like this very often anymore? Their bodies have been going through hell for a quarter century now. I've been watching them since I was a kid. So, do you think these guys can do those matches like that anymore?
Yeah, I mean, I think age in wrestling is just a number.
Jeff is one of those dudes, he's going to gut it the hell out. Like, he did the Swanton. I mean, he did a great Swanton at the end of the match there. So, he obviously gutted it out. But maybe they could have, maybe cut this match down a little bit. I would like to see it again, run it back, but let's get everybody healthy here because obviously Jeff was not 100% in this match.
Let's talk, obviously, the one thing we haven't talked about yet so far in this pay-per-view is probably the biggest story. I mean, obviously, CM Punk won the championship. That's how you main evented this show. But the big story, and they got right to it right off the get-go, watching it, wondering it. They even did a little kind of tease where the music hit, and we waited a second or two. But the story of the weekend, since we last recorded, was MJF.
Yes.
He no-showed a meet and greet signing on Saturday.
That people paid for, by the way.
That people paid for.
Yep.
I hope they got their money back, I imagine. But
I'm sure that was taken care of.
And then he showed up at the pay-per-view and
was late, by the way.
And there was all the rumors that he was flying out of Vegas, that he left, but then he was still there.
Yeah.
But in the end, he showed up to the pay-per-view. He got crushed. I don't even think this was really that competitive. I don't know if this was an answer to his actions as of late to be like, listen, because of that, you're not even going to get to look competitive in this match. Just powerbomb after powerbomb. Didn't do the things like we saw in the dog collar match where at least he got to look like a good heel for a minute.
This is essentially a squash.
Yeah, it was essentially a squash.
Yeah.
And
do you think that was punishment for what he did?
And I'm not sure because I guess here's my thing. So what I have been getting indicated as of late is MJF signed a new contract last year, but has been very upset about it in the sense of, and I guess this is what you're going to get in the world of AEW, that he is not making as much money as some of those big name part-timers. He's not making as much money as CM Punk. He's not making as much money as Christian. These people who obviously don't put in the work. I mean, not saying they don't put in the work. They put in probably more work than they need to do.
I know what you're saying, but here's your thing.
But these are not the homegrown AEW talents.
Like what the reports out there are, he's making like I don't know specific numbers and what names. We're just throwing a couple out like Christian or CM Punk. But MJF supposedly is like in comparison to those guys is making 4 to 5 times less money. So that means Christian, CM Punk, some of those caliber guys, I don't know exactly who they're comparing it to, but those guys are making 4 to 5 times more money than MJF, which MJF is probably must-see TV every single week. To me, I get why MJF is acting the way he is, and by all accounts, TK, Tony Khan, and MJF's relationship has really taken a hit. Like they're like they used to be very close by all accounts. Like they would talk all the time about what they're gonna do next. And guess what? When all this, when business gets in the way of things, sometimes the friendship gets fractured. And right now, I think MJF is he can't wait. He can't wait to get the hell out of AEW at this point. Maybe this whole thing, it could be the same plan as Sasha Banks and Naomi, where it's at the end of the day, it's just one of those works. I'm not saying
I guess it's
is.
a little bit better in the sense that, I mean, he's television in the sense that he didn't walk out and then we haven't seen from him since, and they had to put out an announcement that he let all the fans down.
You never know. This could be an elaborate work. But if it's really that bad, WWE is going to be calling as soon as that contract.
I guess what I'm saying, and this is my issue. If it is whatever, if that's the reason, whatever the reason is for MJF, I think it's unprofessional. Regardless, you have an issue with your contract, you want to make a little bit more money, then you bring that up to Tony Khan, but you still show up to your dates. You don't let the fans know it. I mean, it's like that in any walk of life. If you've got an issue with your contract as an athlete, if it's mid-season, you go out there and you play. You talk about this behind closed doors.
So it's okay that Stone Cold left.
Because nobody said that was okay.
I thought, you know what? Here's the thing. I am okay with it with MJF. Here's the thing. If you're making 4 to 5 times less money than folks that are barely on the stick doing anything, they're just kind of a legacy talent, so to speak. I get why he's ticked off, because the revenue that he is bringing in to Tony Khan, AEW, and Turner, and he gets a small cut of the pie. I understand why he's not.
This is the issues that
this is what happens when you blow out the roster.
This is what happens. Tony Khan is going to have to know a little bit about this. He's trying to be up there with the Vince McMahons of the world. He's trying to run a wrestling company that's top of the world and bringing all these talents. Well, this is what you have. I mean, I imagine Impact had some of the same issues. WWE has some of the same issues when people see Brock Lesnar and how much he makes.
Here's the thing,
in comparison to the workhorses.
Here's the other piece of it thus far, and we're still very early on in the Cody Rhodes WWE return. But it seems like ever since Cody has been back in WWE, things have been pretty good for Cody. And my understanding from what I have been hearing and what I've been seeing is MJF it seems to like what WWE is doing with Cody, which has piqued his interest even more in WWE. Not the money, sure. But I think at the end of the day, if he's making a slightly less money but has more control, he's going to go to that place versus, or like stay in AEW, even, we'll see how this plays out, versus going, getting a bigger payday where Vince controls everything. Because I think MJF wants a little bit of control over his narrative. I think that's what he wants. So I think that's the other piece that not many people are talking about is Cody seems to be doing well. He's getting pushed heavily. I think MJF sees that and he's like, okay, if they pay me a lot of money and they're going to treat me as well as Cody, I guess my contract's up in 2 years. I'll see WWE then.
When it comes to working anywhere, AEW or WWE, I think the best place you need to work is a place that pays you a fair amount of money and you're happy to work at. Now, some places might pay you more, but if you are not happy to be there, let's say, Cody Rhodes came to WWE, but was being treated not how he is currently being treated like he was before.
MJF probably wouldn't be even considered WWE, because you don't think Cody and MJF still talk? Come on. It does not matter. wrestlers talk to wrestlers. That's just how
WWE
business
is such a weird, and AEW is turning into a weird place as well, but WWE is the weirdest of places. And maybe MJF would have the best off that he never went to NXT, but I would probably say that would be a negative. Before, I loved NXT, and I think NXT did great things for the Dolph Zigglers of the world, and obviously a lot of the people who've come up, the Kevin Owenses, the Roman Reigns, people who've come through developmental, it's done great things.
Yeah.
But in the current landscape, before we move on to NXT in your house this weekend, kind of as a precursor to that exactly, I think right now NXT is not the place to go. If you are MJF and they say, yeah, we'll put you over in NXT.
He ain't going there regardless.
Yeah, don't. And it's not because it's a demotion. It's not because...
Bro, he that's the thing. MJF is so over. He's going to get the kind of treatment, if not better, than an AJ Styles did coming from
And the reason I say don't go to NXT is not because it's a demotion or anything like that. Like it would be because before, like I said, if you were in AEW and you went to NXT, similar how Adam Cole went over there, that's great. NXT was at 1 minute a couple years ago hotter than WWE when it comes to crowds, when it comes to sellouts, when it comes to fan interactions. It was probably the better place to be a couple years ago. Sure, you weren't wrestling at WrestleMania, but who cares? You were getting 30 minutes in a Hell in a Cell match or a 6-sided steel or whatever War Games match. And it felt like a better, cooler place to be. That's why the Adam Coles of the world stayed there for as long as they did. And the Tommaso Ciampas stayed there as long as they did. But now it's not a place to be because of the fact that when you're there and then you make it to WWE, it's like you get cut like right away. It's like you're in AAA baseball for 6 years and then you make your major league debut and you're cut the next day.
And you're gone.
And Ciampa's kind of seeing that right now this past Monday Night on Raw.
Again, why they get rid of Tommaso? Like, what's wrong with Tommaso?
Of all the things they've done, that's probably the best. The fact that they let him keep somewhat of his name because everything else they've been doing to the NXT.
Tommaso's part of him. You know what I mean? Like, come on. Like, stop going.
Like I said, though, these other people, they're not even letting him keep the half of their name. They're completely.
Well, they let Theory keep his name.
But we're looking at LA Knight over here coming on. We're looking at all these other people.
What do we make of that? What is it? Max Dupree or something?
Yeah, like Max Dupree. And I mean, they changed the character entirely. And then when they fail, then it didn't work out.
Yeah, but I will say, though, if anybody can make it work, I do think LA Knight can make that work. I hope so, because that guy's too damn talented.
I'm just saying NXT right now, in the sense of making it back to the main roster, is just, it's not the place to be because it's so much uncertainty. Even the Braun Breakers of the world, you don't know what they would, he's doing great now, but when he makes it onto the main roster, you don't know how they're going to ruin him somehow.
Well, I mean, as we've seen with Aleister Black, I'm sorry, not Aleister Black. Well, he's gone now. With Damian Priest, another dark figure. Damian Priest with the Judgment Day. That's been a little revitalization of his career. Same thing with Rhea Ripley. And actually, really quick, speaking of formerly Aleister Black, Malachi Black, what a hell of a match that was too. I enjoyed that. The House of Black, and Death Triangle, that was a good match too. That was another match that 15 minutes, I think that's solid. I enjoyed that. And you did see Julia Hart. Now she's officially a part of the House of Black. So that was another match I wanted to mention as well.
Well, I guess one final takeaway from Double or Nothing is, what do you make of the fact that Tony Khan doesn't book a wrestling show similar to WWE in a wrestling show, and that every match has its place? Meaning that at WrestleMania 25, we all know about, The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. That got the 30 minutes of time or the 40 minutes of time and really got to be the match of the night. And, there was the comedic matches. There was, the bathroom break matches. But with AEW, these pay-per-views, everybody's allowed to essentially get 20 minutes of time. Everyone's allowed to put on like a match that, okay, cool, they just put on like a 30-minute Hell in a Cell match. I'm going to put on a 30-minute Hell in a Cell match. Like, there is no... It's just everybody goes out there being able to book their own match. There's no like, ooh, they just sat through 45 minutes straight wrestling match. Let's just put on a 5-minute, Divas match. No, another 45-minute match, essentially.
Yeah.
That's how he books. He books it like, hey, we have 13, because WWE could do 13 matches in 3 hours because they've done it. They when they have more matches or whatever, they can shorten up certain matches. They can be like, okay, this match is going to get some time. This match isn't going to get some
5
time.
minutes. Yeah.
But like that's the issue with, we got 13 matches. We knew it going in. Oh, this is going to be a long pay-per-view because none of these matches we saw the last time. Every match got a half hour of time.
Yep.
So there was 8 matches. It took 4 hours. So you knew 12 matches on the main card. Ooh, they're all going to get. I mean, some matches were shortened up a little bit, but they all got, the length that they would have gotten. Meaning if there was less matches on the card or more matches on the card, then these matches would have still got the same length. It would have just went longer.
Actually, you know what? I was just thinking of something while we reverted back to AEW. CM Punk champion. I'm not a fan of it. Why does CM Punk need the belt? I don't get that.
I mean,
you just mentioned WWE. This is a WWE kind of thing.
Yeah, but you know what I'll say with CM Punk, and here's the thing about CM Punk.
Wait, so what's different about CM Punk than somebody else?
Because he's essentially going to get some
He's an old
eyeball.
guy.
Yes.
He's an old guy. So why do we have to have the older guy beating the younger guy, so to speak? Here's the thing. CM Punk, to me, does not need a championship to be. He's going to get the pops everywhere he goes. A guy like Hangman Adam Page, I think, should have the title on him over a CM Punk at this point.
Yeah, but it's kind of like the Roman Reigns theory right now, where he's both the face of the company and he's the champion. And I think,
is he really the face of the company, CM Punk?
I mean, I think that's giving him the belt. He's going to be. Yeah, I think he's going to be the person that is going to be the face of this company.
I would say this.
And to get eyeballs on your product that maybe weren't there before.
MJF does more for AEW than CM Punk, and MJF's not even the champion. That's more. And here's the thing. When you announce the card on Dynamite, like you announce things, to be honest, maybe I'm in the minority on this, which is fine. That's cool. We all have a different flavor of ice cream that we like. If I see MJF and I see CM Punk, and I got to figure out what segment I'm going to watch, and I know exactly what time each is going on, I'm going out of my way to watch MJF over CM Punk. That's just me. CM Punk has the same shtick for me. I don't know. I don't dislike him by any means. I think he does a hell of a job. To make him the face, why are you making someone the face when you're trying to be different? Like, why don't you have a homegrown guy like MJF be your face?
I mean,
and again, I'm not dissing on CM Punk. CM Punk is, I appreciate everything he's done for the business. I think
the argument could be made, though, the fact that when they brought in CM Punk last year and they made such a big deal about him, and then they didn't really do anything with him. I mean, they brought him in like he's going to be the face of the company. So essentially to treat him for the year that they have, the way that they have, and to just kind of throw him in and mix him in the roster, it did a disservice to, the kind of hype that he brought in. You know what I mean? If they brought in Roman Reigns and it was this huge hype and it sold out an arena just for him to make his return to the world of wrestling in AEW, and then they just throw him in matches against Darby Allin, well, like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, but that's the thing. He doesn't need the belt. You can make impactful debuts and longevity as a. I don't care. I'm gonna call him a legacy talent because he's an older guy. He's more of a legacy talent. You don't need to put him in you don't have to put the belt on him. He can still put on good shows without the belt. That's just my take.
I don't think they'll ever compete with WWE for sure. But if they want to,
but why are you following the WWE model then? Like you're saying you're the alternative to WWE, but you're almost like you're
following their model. Yeah, you're following the Impact model in the sense of you're bringing in old WWE talent and you're putting them right to the top because they have the WWE name on them.
And last time I checked, how's Impact really done?
I mean,
I'm just saying, against WWE, not a chance.
Oh, they're still around, but yeah, they're not.
Yeah, but they're keeping.
They're not competition, but nobody ever will be.
Nobody. If AEW wants to become a real competitor, they need to be different. And yes, do they do some things different? Yes, but there's so many similarities to WWE that it's like, okay, you're doing what WWE's been doing for years. Be different.
So this Saturday night, not in Chicago. And Chicago's got tons of arenas, too. Big ones, small ones, little places where Ring of Honor is run, indie wrestling is run. So there's many spots. But yet NXT, outside of Stand and Deliver, which was just over WrestleMania weekend, still will be at the Performance Center in Florida. I know that they're going to be traveling and doing some house shows come July, but I don't know what the holdup is in the sense of not having this in-your-house pay-per-view in Chicago, home of Hell in a Cell this Sunday night, kind of, doing what they did before, where you have the takeover on Saturday, the pay-per-view on Sunday.
Yeah, it does make sense.
I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense, essentially, how they've treated NXT in general, and then I don't understand what WWE is doing with NXT in general. No. Do you not want people to watch this? because obviously we talk about the changing of the names and how they treat people completely different when they come. It's so different. Like, do you want me to like NXT or do you not want me to like NXT? Do you not want me to go? It's like they don't want me to go. They're like, no, we're not going to put this in front of people, new people at least.
Look at this. So, okay. So how many matches did we just talk about on AEW's pay-per-view?
12.
13.
Well, 13 with the pre-show, yes.
You got, what did I say? You could do 6 and 7 and make it 2 separate shows. I have to give NXT credit here. Six matches that are all quality matches.
Well, this event will probably go 2.5 hours.
Hey, three.
And I think Hell in a Cell will
max?
probably go 2.5 hours as well.
3 hours max for 6. I'm good with that. That gives you at least 20, 25 minutes a match because you're not going to go.
We need to normalize pay-per-views being 2 hours and 45 minutes again. We need to make that the normal across the board.
Okay. I'll say less than 3. I'm not worried. Like, keep it under 3.
Yes. We need 8 to 11 or 7 to 10. You pick. 8 to 11 is fine. 7 to 10 is fine. But you need to be in that realm.
Yeah, give me 3 hours.
And listen,
I'm good.
WrestleMania is the one exception that I think go a little bit farther in AEW while you have less pay-per-views. That doesn't give you the excuse because WWE back in the day had less pay-per-views and that didn't give them the excuse. The In-Your-House pay-per-views when they first started were only an hour and a half long and the WrestleManias then were still only 2.5 hours long. And when WrestleMania and the King of the Ring and SummerSlam were the only pay-per-views, they were still only 2.5 hours long. So that should be the normal here. And I think with NXT, regardless if this is a special on USA Network or if it's a pay-per-view event or a premium live event as they're advertising it, the second premium live event, I guess, because
I'm still calling it pay-per-view. I don't care.
In NXT.
I do got to point out. I like the one stipulation in the out of the 6 matches. Losing team joins the winning team stable. I haven't seen that one in a while, or if ever. I don't remember. It's either been a long time, or I just don't recall anything like that recently. That's a cool stipulation.
Yeah, it's a 6-man tag team match. Tony D'Angelo, Channing Lorenzo, Troy Donovan are teaming up to take on Santano Escobar, Cruz del Toro, and Joaquin Wilde. And yeah, I mean, that's a part of NXT, to be honest with you. We were talking off air. It is not like the NXT of old. It is not.
No, not at all.
In the sense of, this would be the pay-per-view of the weekend. I would know all the storylines going into this. I'd be watching this on a weekly basis. In fact, I put it out there on our Twitter account of who is actually watching this pay-per-view. I'm going to pull it up right now, the results. Not just...
And is the voting closed? Do we know?
No, the voting isn't closed.
So let's get a few more votes in. So make sure you go to the Heel to the Face Twitter and make sure.
Let's see. We got it. So
wow, the majority is
but barely live on Saturday, only 38%. Later on demand. I said the question was how are you going to watch NXT this weekend? And live on Saturday, which I just actually added a vote from another account, so I kind of just skewed it in the live on Saturday. Either way, it's 30% almost right across the board. 30% not watching it at all. 30% watching it later, and 30% watching it live on Saturday.
Well, that math doesn't add up. So it's 39. Yeah, it's like
38,
30 and a half, 31, 31.
A third pretty much going across the board. The point is, back in the day, if I said, how are you watching NXT TakeOver this Saturday? I would probably say 80% would say live, 20% would say later on demand, and there would probably be nobody saying not at all.
No, there'd still be like 10% that says not at all. There's always going to be that crowd of WWE fans that are, they just follow SmackDown and Raw. They don't really pay attention to NXT. And that's why I like what Corey Graves does a lot, because like anytime you listen to his podcast, he's like, yeah, the NXT, whenever he talks about NXT, he's like, for those of you, like when somebody gets called up from NXT to the main roster, he always put prefaces like, hey, there might be a small portion of the audience that doesn't know who this person is.
Way WWE treats NXT nowadays, it's a bigger and bigger audience every single day because more people are tuning out. And they're doing it to themselves. I really don't know what is going on.
I will say, though, this card overall is not bad.
Yeah, I mean, the highlights of the match, if you're a fan of like NXT of old or you're trying to stay, hanging on NXT, I mean, you got Cameron Grimes and Carmelo Hayes for the NXT North American Championship.
That's going to be a great match.
That belt still looks the same, folks, as it did back in the black and gold era. So that'll be a good match. You were saying you're not a big fan of Joe Gacy in this rematch between Braun Breaker and Joe Gacy. We saw this at that Valentine's Day, or what was the most recent Stand and Deliver. It wasn't Stand and Deliver. It was the Tuesday night special.
Creed brothers don't get enough love. Creed brothers are good, man. They're one of those teams. They're one of those teams that you're gonna you're gonna say in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, they're gonna be multi-time main roster tag teams, whatever they name it at that point. They're gonna be tag team champions for a long time.
Now,
They're
I'm not
good.
really familiar with this Wendy Chu. I see she comes out in pajamas. I guess that's her gimmick. She's facing Mandy Rose for the NXT Women's Championship.
That match to me is a little bit of a throwaway. I feel like, and again, I don't know. I don't follow Wendy Chu that much, but Mandy Rose will probably win that match. And then you know how I feel about Gacy. So I mean, I would say 4 out of the 6 matches I'm definitely interested in watching.
Yeah, if Breakker loses or is disqualified, he'll lose the championship to Joe Gacy. If he loses, maybe that means Braun Breaker's on his way to the main roster.
And that putting Joe Gacy in the NXT championship, that just yeah.
I mean, the best part about this pay-per-view,
I'm not a fan of that.
the best part about this pay-per-view, and hopefully it'll be the best part in the sense of that they kept this intact, is the in-your-house gimmick. That maybe they'll bring back Todd Pettengill. Like, that's why I think just that gimmick in
Little
Chicago.
nostalgia.
I think in front of 5,000 people in Chicago, people want to see that because that's
That'd
what
be good.
sucked about the last two. This in-your-house gimmick came out of necessity because of the pandemic and you needing to be creative and to do things out of the box. And a lot of fans were like, man, it's disappointing that we can't be going to this NXT in-your-house takeover pay-per-view because when takeovers existed, the wrestling was great, but the aesthetics was not the best. It was just generic like we see in WWE. Yeah. This was kind of a cool set, a cool idea, a cool gimmick. People probably wanted the T-shirts and the Todd Pettengills of the world and the promo packages. It was neat. And now you have a chance to put it in front of people with the old in-your-house set and, just that alone, and you're not doing it. So I don't know what they're trying to do here with NXT. It's beyond my recollection.
You know what? And with that being said, why don't we just move over to the next
So
page?
Sunday night, Hell in a Cell, a sold-out Allstate Arena. That's right, folks, sold out. They wanted you to make sure that you knew that was sold out after the Money in the Bank issue we'll try to get to before we close out the show here. But Hell in a Cell this weekend so far, 6 matches on the card, hopefully no more. And what we've been seeing lately in WWE, outside of not just WrestleMania but others, is no pre-show matches. And I think that's going to stay.
I'm okay with that.
That's going to stay the
Let's get to
course
it.
this Sunday night in Chicago. Obviously, the main event is going to be Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. No belts on the line, didn't even have belts. But the third time they meet on pay-per-view, I think it's probably like the 26th time they've met since Cody Rhodes has made his debut.
This will be fun. I think it'll be a good match. I'm looking forward to Bianca versus Asuka and Becky. That'll be fun. Here's the thing. I don't really care for the Ezekiel Kevin Owens match as much as I love Kevin Owens. I'm not.
I'm surprised it took so long for that because that obviously happened the night after WrestleMania, and then we didn't have that at WrestleMania Backlash or anything else.
You know what? You know what the interesting storyline going into this is Mustafa Ali in Chicago for a championship. What a moment that would be, huh?
I mean,
considering where Ali has been in the last year or so, 18 months, whatever, wouldn't it be interesting if he gets to go home? Where I think he was a Chicago police officer, if I'm not mistaken. Goes back home, wins the United States Championship. How cool would that be? I'm curious to see what happens with that. That to me could be the moment of the night.
Yeah, no, I mean, that would be cool. And it would be the first time, obviously, the championship has changed hands. He was a police officer in Homewood, Illinois, which is right outside of Chicago.
Suburb of Chicago. Okay, so hey, thank you for his service there.
But and Bobby, here's a question too: is only one of these matches inside Hell in a Cell?
Yeah, looks like it.
They sold the tickets because obviously when you buy the ticket, you see Hell in a Cell, so you're kind of buying the ticket of I'm going to go, like same with the Royal Rumble. You're buying the ticket, I'm going to get the Royal Rumble. So they sold this with the idea that you're going to get at least one Hell in a Cell match, maybe even more, and you're only going to get one Hell in a Cell match.
Yep.
So this pay-per-view, again, I understand why WWE does it, so you can sell tickets so people know ahead of time they're getting the Hell in a Cell match. I don't think it's the way to go, because I think it kind of ruins Hell in a Cell. I think Hell in a Cell could be used for this pay-per-view for sure, because it's the third match of the feud, and that's normally what you do. You use Hell in a Cell when all the other matches have been exhausted. But it was it's just kind of dumb, like in the sense of when Cody Rhodes announced that this was going to be a Hell in a Cell match, it really took away the steam that it would have from the early 2000s when they would have announced that how about one more time, me and you in Hell in a Cell? I remember, Triple H challenging Cactus Jack.
Well,
Cactus
they
Jack
went to
challenge.
the well. They've gone to the well too many times.
And it's such an impactful announcement when somebody's in the ring with the microphone and they're like, me and you one more time, Hell in a Cell. Because you don't see it coming. But in this case, we already saw it coming because it's the name of the pay-per-view.
They sold me well on Monday night. So I'm just saying they sold me well. And I know we've seen it a couple times already. They sold me on that. The way the fight broke out, that was actually pretty good. I enjoyed that. So,
do you see Cody Rhodes going 3-0 against Seth Rollins here on pay-per-view?
Yes.
And Bianca Belair, she's a champion, taking on Asuka and Becky Lynch. You see her leaving with the belt? I do.
Yeah, no, I'll go Becky Lynch.
Bobby Lashley, I see him beating almost an MVP, probably throwing him. I mean, this would be, I guess, good for Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, Bobby's going to win. And here, I'll just do this. Bobby is going to pin MVP.
And Kevin Owens, Ezekiel, it doesn't really matter who wins that match.
Actually, Bobby will make MVP tap. There you go.
The U.S. title being on the line on a pay-per-view is kind of unique in that sense. I haven't seen that in a while.
And here's the thing. I'm gonna go with the upset. Ali in his home city. Let's get it done.
Finn Balor, AJ Styles, and Liv Morgan, a pseudo Bullet Club, if you will, against the Judgment Day. Do you see anybody joining either side in this match? Any more joins?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm gonna leave it the way it is right now. Selfishly, I want to see a little Bullet Club, so I'm gonna leave it like that for now.
All right, so we're going to finish out the show, obviously talking Money in the Bank being relocated from Allegiant Stadium. We talked about this a little bit last year when they made the announcement that Money in the Bank. And while, it has probably taken over Survivor Series for one of the bigger pay-per-view events.
Easy back off of that one.
Okay, well, I mean, most people would say, a lot of people would say that Money in the Bank is one of the new bigger pay-per-views.
It would be, it'd be, instead of it being the core four, it'd be like the new five, big five, or whatever you want to, whatever you come up with, whatever name you want to come up with. But it doesn't. It's not replacing Survivor Series. That is traditional. That's not going anywhere. So comparing that to Money in the what Money in the Bank is, that's a little disservice to the history of that great pay per view.
So the pay per view, Money in the Bank, July 2nd, July 4th weekend. Cody Rhodes just had him actually put out all those big time commercials advertising the pay-per-view at Allegiant Stadium, going full on. But
oops.
They didn't get the ticket sales that they were expecting, and with time kind of running short, they did kind of the WrestleMania 7 gimmick where they realized, hey, we got about a month left to go. So we've already kind of sold too many tickets for the MGM Grand. They didn't sell too many for T-Mobile, but T-Mobile's being taken that night for UFC. And a lot of people, Tony Khan included, say it was dumb on WWE's part in general to go up against UFC, and maybe that's part of the reason. I don't agree, though, because last year SummerSlam went up against the Manny Pacquiao fight at the T-Mobile Arena and did just fine. I think Las Vegas is a big enough place for both of those things to coexist. But it meant that they couldn't go to T-Mobile. So they had to go to the MGM Grand, which I think would have been a better place for them to go to begin with. Because they've never gone to the MGM Grand. I think this will be the first ever televised WWE show from the MGM Grand.
Be fun. I'm going to like that. That's going to be good.
I mean, MGM Grand is quite the historic. It's to many people out there, it is the venue. I mean, T-Mobile's the new fancy place, and so is Allegiant Stadium.
Yeah, but like the allure,
the allure of Las Vegas, the Tyson fights, the Pacquiao fights, the Mayweather fights.
To me, out that way, it's like the Madison Square Garden out that way in Vegas. Yeah, it's like out west.
It's not as big and grand, but I mean, the MGM,
just the history of it. That's what I'm saying.
The T-Mobile Arena is a cool place, but here's the thing: when you say T-Mobile Arena, it doesn't say Las Vegas. When you say the MGM Grand,
that's Vegas,
that says Vegas.
Yep.
Because and I can see why WWE essentially had never gone there before, because it's literally in a casino. They were always trying to do the whole family-friendly thing and not, try to go into casinos.
That's you know what? We're going to see it, though.
And
interesting.
Some people are going to be displaced because of the fact that this place only holds about 15,000, and they've already sold 17,000 tickets. But I guess I'll just leave it at this. So Nick Khan has made it pretty clear with these stadium shows that back in the day when they went to a stadium, the whole reason you go to a stadium is to take advantage of the stadium. Meaning if you're going to AT&T Stadium or you're going to, the big house in Michigan, you're going to any of these big places, the first thing that comes to mind is, wow, they're trying to go for like record-breaking attendance. That's the only reason I'm doing it. Nick Khan has kind of shooed away from that, and essentially he's made it clear that going to stadiums just means we're trying to draw more than 20,000. If we go to Madison Square Garden, we're capped at 20,000. If we go to Allegiant Stadium, we got leeway to maybe get 25, 30,000. We're not trying to get 70,000. We're not trying to get 80,000. We're not trying to break attendance records.
I don't like that model.
We're just trying to get more than
like
the
that
arena.
model so much.
SummerSlam's a good example here. SummerSlam being in the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, you're probably not getting a lot of allure. It's just an arena. Maybe, a few people travel, but it's not a travel destination. You're going to get 20,000 people. Nashville's a travel destination.
Yeah, I was going to say, well.
What I'm saying is if you run it at the Bridgestone Arena, you're going to get 20,000 at the most, and it's going to just seem like a traditional pay-per-view. But by running it at Nissan Stadium, you're getting the allure of it being in a stadium, despite the fact that you're only trying to draw maybe 10,000 more people than you would at the arena.
It's not. I don't agree with that model.
Yeah, and that's essentially they were only trying to draw about 25,000 for Money in the Bank. So they drew 17,000, which is too low. 25,000, I think, would set them up to be able to make it look all right in a stadium. But 17,000 in a stadium was like too little. So they had to say, no, it's too little. We need between 25 and 35. So essentially, they weren't trying to go for the SummerSlam crowd of last year, about 50,000. They were just trying to go for like the 35,000 at max, try to figure, but they couldn't get there.
We know they're going to sell.
So they had to relocate.
They'll sell out the MGM Grand. I'm not worried about that.
Do you see this happening again in WWE? Do you see them needing a contingency plan again for some stadium shows? Obviously, Clash at the Castle is doing just fine, but do you see them again trying to maybe put something in a venue that's too big for it?
Yes, I do. I think this is what is it? What's his name? Khan? The other Khan?
Nick Khan.
Nick Khan.
Yeah.
Nick Khan, I think the way from a business side of it, obviously the revenue's really good and all that stuff. I'm not going to question that. But from this side of it, from like the event side of it, I think this model is not going to be successful. So you're going to see, I have a feeling you're going to see this happening again in the near future.
I think you'll be okay as long as you keep it to the traditional big pay-per-views, the SummerSlams, Royal Rumble.
But he's already said he wants to do more.
So you just got to keep it. I think Money in the Bank was a little too ambitious.
Yeah, when you put out Money in the Bank like that, that's a little.
Yeah, Money in the Bank is it's a bigger pay-per-view for sure, and it's up there. Survivor Series is a big pay-per-view, but I don't think Survivor Series could do the stadium model. So I don't think Money in the Bank should do the stadium model.
Here's the thing. There's only 2 shows a year that should get stadium, and that's SummerSlam and obviously WrestleMania. The rest of them, I don't think need stadiums. That's just my opinion.
I think Royal Rumble is good for stadiums, not for large, but like with the baseball stadium model, where for the first 2 years they did it. Or even Alamo Dome. You talk Alamo Dome, you talk Houston, and you talk Phoenix.
I'm just saying
they were selling those places out because they were smaller stadiums. When you try to do like Royal Rumble at like I don't know, like a NFL football stadium, and then try to only draw 30 or 40,000, not a fan of that. I think Royal Rumble,
your traditional stadiums, it's only SummerSlam and it's only WrestleMania.
I think SummerSlam and Royal Rumble should run from baseball stadiums in which they can fill the place out. So I'm talking 30 or 40,000. So that way you're actually using the whole place. You're selling the whole place. You're utilizing the whole building. You're not trying to like make it, cheapskate and we're going to AT&T Stadium, but we're just using like this little section of it. No, run a stadium in which you feel like you can sell the whole place for every event. So when WrestleMania comes, run the stadium that you feel you can sell out. And Royal Rumble and SummerSlam, stadiums as well, but run stadiums in which you can sell out, which they did, which, like I said, the Houston and Phoenix, they did the baseball stadiums. They drew about 40,000. Good. SummerSlam's in an NFL stadium. They shouldn't be because that's a 70,000 seat stadium. They're hoping to get 40,000, but they should just run a 40,000 seat venue instead.
We'll see. We'll see how this unfolds for the next few years pay-per-views.
So Hell in a Cell this upcoming week. Just like, but boy, it's crazy. AEW and WWE. AEW ran the bigger venue in Las Vegas. WWE is going to run the smaller venue in about a month. This month, June, AEW and WWE both run Chicago. And WWE is running the smaller venue again with Allstate Arena, and AEW later in the month running the United Center. But we will talk Hell in a Cell and everything that happens from it, any other news that happens in the world of professional wrestling this upcoming week. For Brandon, I'm Jarad, and we will talk to you next week.